Howdy folks, welcome back to Boonedockery. It is another hot and humid day in southeastern Ohio, but still, it's a beautiful day and to be in the woods. Walked a little further than what I normally do today because I kept seeing more and more nature. Animals, saw deer, saw squirrel, a lot of different kinds of birds, and I just didn't want to stop. Every place I went, wound up seeing something different, something more beautiful than I saw before. But I'm going to stop here in just a minute because I've got another product review for you, and I think I got a good spot over here. And I'll go ahead and ground my pack, get out the stuff, and we'll get to it. We'll see you in just a minute. Today, we're going to take a look at Esbit's alcohol stove and trekking cook set. As I've stated, this is the Esbit alcohol stove and trekking cook set, which the title is a little misleading because it's actually a dual fuel stove, but I'll get more into that in just a moment. Like most of Esbit's products, they have a very nice mesh storage bag, a draw cord, and cord lock. First thing you'll see when I remove them from the pouch are the cook pots. There are actually two. One doubles as the lid. It can also be a small fry pan. Both the primary pot and the lid / fry pan have hinged rubberized handles that are riveted 3 times into place on the respective pots. On the inside, nested, are an alcohol or spirit burner, a solid fuel elevator, and the stove itself. The actual stove is very similar in design as their small solid fuel stove Cookset stove. This one has a lot more ventilation to go in to feed oxygen to the flame of the spirit burner, which is an absolute blessing if it's not windy. If it's windy, that can be a bit of an issue, and you'll need to address that if that were to come to be. On the interior of the actual stove, there are raised embossed areas all the way around this bottom ring, and that does 2 things. One of which, on the interior, it actually locks the spirit burner into place. And on the exterior of that embossed area, it locks the solid fuel elevator into place. The spirit burner is very similar to design as the Trangia. there is one major difference. The simmer ring. The simmer ring actually has a handle, which makes it easy to adjust to varying degrees of simmering. However, in this particular stove, the degree that you can do that while you're operating the stove is limited. One major thing I've seen with this simmer ring in comparison to Trangia's is it's very loose. It's very loose. And as it heats up, it appears to loosen up even more. So if you're using this as a simmer ring, and you also want to use your simmer ring to extinguish the flame, when you put it on your spirit burner, there's a lot of give there, a lot of space, and the fuel will continue to burn. It's a little more difficult to put out. But other than that, it's essentially the same design as the Trangia. Let's go ahead and set it up so you can see what it looks like when it's ready to cook. I'm going to assemble this so you can see its final stove configuration. You simply find a location that's level for your actual stove, and you choose whether or not you're going to be using solid fuels or methylated spirits. If you choose the solid fuel, simply drop that into place. You'll place your solid fuel on the top of the elevator and ignite it and put your pot on. If you're using the spirit burner, it goes in the same location, and those raised embossed areas keep that in position. And you simply nest the cook pots into the top ring, which the bottom has been tapered so it fits perfectly. Very stable. Now that you know how to set it up, let's put it to work. I've chosen to use a spirit burner to cook my meal tonight, and the reason being is I can actually cook with this. With the simmer ring, that enables you to adjust the amount of temperature and the amount of heat that is actually going to be focused on any particular part of either the fry pan or the cook pot. First thing we need to do is to fill the spirit burner. Now with most of these spirit burners, you want to fill it to where you think it's full, and then it will settle just a little bit. There is a wicking material that's on the interior of these that will absorb some of that, and then once you're ready to go, top it off to the direction you need. Well folks, I was just getting ready to break out the first portion of the meal I was going to prepare, and I experienced a catastrophic failure with the spirit burner. And since I was able to extinguish the flame fairly quickly and fairly easily, I'm going to reignite the stove so you can see exactly what happened. I have noticed that there were lines, surface lines appearing on this stove. Those lines were not cosmetic. Those lines were actually cracks in the spirit burner. I do not know if this is a fluke, if this is common in Esbit spirit burners. I do know that the spirit burner has never been damaged. It's never been dropped. It's never experienced anything that would damage the actual burner. And I'm going to, if it's cool enough, I'll put the lid on and show it to you. Hopefully my camera will cooperate and you will be able to see those small lines I was referring to. Now all the way around the spirit burner, I noticed these lines. And as you can see, in the background, the alcohol is actually leaking out of those cracks. Those lines were not cosmetic, they were actually cracks. This is a serious issue. Well, I just expended a lot of calories and a lot of time walking back to my vehicle, getting my Trangia spirit burner out of my emergency kit that I keep in my car. And when I came back, I washed out my pot that I used to extinguish the flame, and I went ahead and prepped the first part of my meal, which was putting a little bit of ghee in the bottom of my fry pan and putting a little bit of ground beef in there. I like to use ghee simply because it's shelf stable. It'll stay good for a long time in your pack, and it just has a very high smoke point, and it's just a superior oil that I use when I do my bushcrafting. Go ahead and get this started. I already inspected the Trangia stove. There is no cracks, no lines, nothing to lead me to believe that it's going to be the same issue that I had with the Esbit stove. One of the things that I wanted to mention to you is I use my little koozie that I made to prepare my Mountain House meals in. This doubled as a cooler for me today. I put the ground beef in a Ziploc bag. I put it in a larger Ziploc bag filled with ice, and that was several hours ago, and the ice is still in phenomenal shape. So if I get around to doing one of these do-it-yourself projects for my Mountain House koozie, keep that in mind, because not only will you have something to keep something nice and piping hot, but you'll have something that will be able to keep something nice and cold as well. Now we got the jets going pretty well. I'm going to use my spirit ring, or excuse me, my simmer ring, to go ahead and reduce the amount of heat there. I'll put my ground beef on the fire with the ghee in there. Let that come to temperature. Once it starts to brown, we'll be able to finish that up and add the second part of the meal. Go ahead and go through some of the specs on this. They usually run about $35 to $50 depending on where you get them from, and Amazon always has great deals on things like that. The best thing about that, if you go with Prime, you get free shipping. The total Cookset without alcohol in the actual stove is 14.7 ounces. When everything is nested together, it's 5.3 inches by 6.5 inches, and so it's a fairly compact size. I really like this. I've taken it out quite a few times with me, and it's my go-to most of the time because it has a little bit larger capacity, so I can actually make enough water, boil enough water at one time for a big cup of coffee and a 2-serving Mountain House meal. Now, everything that comes with the set is actually, purpose-built. I can't think of anything right off the top of my head that they could have added to the set except a quality spirit burner. I'm going to go ahead and brown this up, and once it is ready to go, I'll bring you back and show you the second part of the meal. The ground beef is browned up very nice and very quickly, as a matter of fact. Now we're ready to go ahead and start our next portion to our meal, which is by adding 1 cup of water to our cook pot. And since it's graduated, I can see exactly where 1 cup is. And we're going to go ahead and put this right here for just a moment while we put the other items we need in there. What I have here is a Ziploc bag that has half of a Knorr rice side dish. So with this, I simply cut out the directions and divide everything by half. And that gives me a very large serving to go with my beef. I'm going to go ahead and dump this in there. In addition to that, I'm going to put the ground beef and the ghee and the beef fat in there as well. The reason being is when you are out in the woods and you are really putting some miles under your feet, you want calories. You want calories. And fat has calories. If you exercise, you stay fit, you burn that off pretty quickly when you consume it. Now, I'm going to stir this up. I'm going to remove the simmer ring and allow a full boil. And it seemed eager to get started. Now I'm going to put the lid back on that, and I'm going to allow that to come to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, I'm going to put the simmering back on and let it simmer for 7 minutes. I'll bring you back when it's done. The meal is finished. It's simmered with the simmering in place for 7 minutes. I've let it rest for about 5 minutes. It's thickened up really nicely. And if my zoom will help, autofocus on this camera is not my friend sometimes. But it turned out absolutely fantastic. The thing is I like about this stove is you can use it just like your stove at home. You can brown meat with it, you can boil things, you can do just about anything as you can with your stove at home. A couple things I wanted to mention before I moved along, before I forgot about them. I use ghee, and a lot of people shy away from ghee because it's expensive. I make my own ghee. There's all kinds of videos on YouTube on how to make your own ghee, and I would recommend doing that. It's a fantastic bushcraft oil to use. Like I said, it's shelf stable, can take a really high temperature before it starts to smoke, and it's very nutritious. It's very nutritious, far more nutritious than any other oils you can be cooking with, including coconut oil. The other thing I wanted to mention real quick is my alcohol. To prepare this entire meal, the browning of the beef, the cooking of the rice, everything, half of the stove of alcohol. Only used half the amount of alcohol that was put in this burner. That is very fuel efficient. I made a meal. I very easily could spread this out between 2 people for half of a burner full of alcohol. I think that's fantastic. Now, before I consume my delicious meal, I'd like to go over a few final thoughts about this Cookset. I've had this Cookset for many years. I've used it a lot. It has been my go-to Cookset for quite some time. I have no idea what happened between the last time I used it and today, but something very bad happened with the spirit burner. It's still leaking. I am very thankful that this happened in a controlled situation where I was paying attention to it. Had I set it up as I normally do, I'll get it going, I'll put my cook pot on it, I'll walk away, do something else, and then come back. With all the leaves around, it hasn't rained for several days, that could have been a very serious situation. I do plan on contacting Esbit and discussing the situation with them. The spirit burner aside, the cook pot set, the stove with a functional spirit burner performs phenomenally. I have used the solid fuel tabs with it with the elevator, and it works great for boiling water. As you can see, you can prepare a meal on this. Anywhere from simmering, browning meat, to boiling water. Anything that you do on your stove at home, you can do it with this. My final thoughts are minus the spirit burner, it's a fantastic set. And perhaps over the years that I've owned this, that this situation has been brought up by other customers, and Esbit has resolved it. I'll contact them, and if I get any responses back whatsoever, I'll put them in the information below, and you'll be able to see it before you attempt to purchase it. If they have resolved it, I would highly recommend purchasing one. It's a great piece of kit, especially for the price. If they've not resolved the issue, it's up to you if you want to go buy a Transient burner and buy the complete kit. Those are my thoughts. Now I'm going to eat. Okay, folks, I know this is supposed to be a Cookset review, but I just have to tell you that this is absolutely delicious. I've never tried this combination before, but I'm going to be making it a lot. Bon appetit to me. I need a moment. I need a moment. The review didn't go so hot. Well, yeah, it did go hot. I mean, almost forest fire hot. Didn't turn out very well. Definitely did not turn out the way I had anticipated it. If any of you have ever experienced any issues with the Esbit spirit burners, please put it down in the comments. I want to see what other people have experienced. I hope to think that it was a once-in-a-lifetime incident that just happened to me when I was filming. But if it is something that other people have experienced, I'd like to know about it. I will contact Esbit and let them know my experience, and anything I find out from Esbit, I'll put it down below. That way you stay posted. And as always, thank you for watching. If you like what I'm doing, you like this particular video, go ahead and click the like button. If you enjoy the videos, you're getting stuff out of it, you know, whatever is positive and you want to watch more, go ahead and click the subscribe. And if you really want to stay up to date on what's going on, click that notifications bell. I'm going to try to squeeze in some other videos in between my regular Wednesday posts. And hopefully you'll be able to find out about those through that notifications bell. As always, folks, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.